I'm Krystian Seibert, Philanthropy Australia's Advocacy and Insight Manager. At Philanthropy Australia, we're focused on supporting the philanthropic community to achieve more and better philanthropy, and a big part of that is advocating for the right policy and regulatory frameworks to support philanthropy. So this is the first of 2 video updates after we had a very big week of policy announcements last week, which impact upon philanthropy. So I encourage members to listen in to find out about these important developments, and this particular update focuses on deductible gift recipient reform. So some of you may know, earlier this year the Australian government released a discussion paper outlining some options for reforming the DGR framework, which is the set of laws and regulations that determine which charities can receive tax-deductible donations, and therefore which organisations, such as PAFs, they can receive grants from. Last Monday, the Minister for Revenue, the Honourable Kelly O'Dwyer MP, announced the Australian government's proposals for reform. Now, they're a sensible and well put together package of reforms. They're not transformational, but they are worthwhile incremental reforms which improve the DGR framework. And they also respond to issues raised during the consultation process. So I'll just walk you through some of the key proposals. The 4 DGR registers will be integrated with the ACNC register, and the ACNC will provide a central location for applications and reporting for organisations seeking DGR status and that have DGR status. So the 4 DGR registers include the Arts Register, the Environment Register, Harm Prevention, and also Overseas Aid. So they're currently sitting with departments. They'll be moved into the ACNC to streamline the process. It's a really positive reform. The ACNC and the ATO will also receive additional funding to review a greater number of DGRs to ensure their ongoing eligibility for DGR status where there are risks identified. So there won't be blanket reviews, which was proposed in the discussion paper, rather targeted risk-based reviews. And again, that's a sensible way forward. Now, in some big news, which is really pleasing for Philanthropy Australia and really good news for philanthropy, the government will not be proceeding with legislating the so-called In Australia requirement. So this is something that Philanthropy Australia strongly advocated for. The requirement, if it was legislated, would have meant that DGRs would have only been able to spend their funds in Australia and not overseas. This would have been very problematic because it would have meant that many organisations that are set up to fundraise in Australia and send funds overseas, they basically would have had their operations put into jeopardy. So we're really pleased that the government won't be proceeding with that. It's been a particular pleasure to work with Philanthropy Australia member and passionate international philanthropist Mark Seibert on this particular issue. A philanthropic body he and some fellow international philanthropists established to make it easier for them to give overseas would have been in jeopardy had this In Australia proposal gone through. So it's a really good outcome. There'll also be some new external conduct standards introduced which the ACNC will monitor, and they regulate how funds are used overseas. I think it's sensible that we have that kind of oversight, and it's something that Philanthropy Australia supported. Now, also importantly, there will be no remediation requirements for environmental DGRs. There was a proposal floated that environmental DGRs would have to undertake a certain proportion of their activities in terms of on-the-ground remediation works, planting trees, fixing riverbeds, those sorts of things. This was something of major concern because it would have challenged the independence and autonomy of environmental DGRs that choose advocacy as their main strategy for achieving change, and it would have also made it harder for philanthropy to fund such advocacy activities. So it's a really positive outcome, and it's been a pleasure to work with organisations such as the Australian Environmental Grantmakers Network on these issues, and it's fantastic to see such great collaboration within philanthropy about issues relevant and important to more and better philanthropy. So lastly, Philanthropy Australia would like to thank Minister O'Dwyer for the positive and constructive approach she and her staff took to engaging with Philanthropy Australia and others on these issues. We very much value the relationship. There will be consultation on the detail of these proposals, such as an opportunity to comment on draft legislation, and Philanthropy Australia will be very closely involved with that. Some more useful resources are available on the webpage below this video, and I encourage you to check them out. Thanks very much.